First time. My first time. Well, welcome back in. Today we're going to be discussing must live or our must plays of the week. Start sits. Throwing myself off a little bit because I didn't have the right button pressed. But anyways, we are back again. It's week 3. It's Wednesday night. We're going to answer every single one of your start sit questions of the week. Got the rankings all loaded up in here and got a lot of questions already. So let's just go ahead and get right to it. Crip, what's going on? I need one flex, full PPR: Swift, Keenan, Judy, JCM, or Waddle. Or I could pick up Wandale or Troy. So for this, I think I would probably lean into DeAndre Swift. Like, the usage is definitely there for him. It's just he hasn't been efficient. I mean, some of the matchups haven't been the greatest. I mean, the Lions last year were really good against the run, and I know they struggled. Week 1, the Lions weren't great in week 1, but their defense bounced back in a big way in week 2. And so I will say that. I mean, they get a matchup against the Cowboys, which isn't a defense we should be really all that concerned with. We just saw the Giants absolutely boat race them, and so I think I would still lean with Swift, just because. I mean, he's still seeing like 95% opportunity share, and that's a really tough thing to find. I mean, we know the usage is going to be there. Like, Keenan, I think is definitely in play, but they do get a really tough matchup against the Broncos. Jerry Judy, they're going against the Packers. I really don't want to play any of the Browns. Like, I don't want to play any Browns. I think that Packers defense is the best in the league, and that's not hyperbole. We just saw them shut down the Commanders and the Lions, and we just saw. I mean, the Lions in week 2 come out and drop 50. I think that offense is still really good. We saw what they were able to do, and so I don't really want to play any Browns against the Packers. And then JCM, it's just more of a usage issue for me. I don't really know what this usage is going to look like for him this week. Like last week, even once Austin Eckler went down, and obviously Brian Robinson's gone, like, he still hasn't really secured any sort of significant role. I mean, he only, I think, 4 touches last week, and so he's not going to be utilized in the passing game. And so I want to wait it out with JCM to just kind of see what this role is going to be. And so I think at the end, I would just go with Swift. Also, I need a flex and a running back, full PPR: Adams, Hubbard, ETN, Sutton, or Keenan. So that's Devontae Adams, easy for me. Devontae Adams is the top 12 wide receiver for me this week. Actually, I was working on some of that today for the wide receiver video, and so I haven't put these out yet. But Devontae Adams, I have at wide receiver 11 right now. I love this offense this week. Puka and Devontae Adams, Matthew Stafford. This is such a consolidated target share in this offense right now. It's easy to because they just don't throw the ball to anybody else. I think right now, Puka and Devontae Adams through 2 weeks are combining for like 66% of the targets in this offense right now. And so I think both of them are going to be pretty much top 15 wide receivers on most weeks. So I would go with Adams and Hubbard here in this one. Next up, Brunil. What's up? I need one wide receiver 2 and I am at a wide receiver 2 and 1 at flex. Who should I start? T-Mac, Egbuka, Odunze, Jordan Mason. Kind of worried to start T-Mac with the Atlanta matchup. So, pull something up. I was working on all my notes today for my wide receivers, and I'm fine with starting Tet there so far. I mean, so it's kind of, so right now, I mean, Tet's averaging about almost 10 targets per game. He's seeing a 21% target per route run rate right now. And the Panthers have been extremely pass heavy. I mean, they're averaging 47 pass attempts per game. The Falcons have allowed the 15th most receiving yards and the 9th most touchdowns to wide receivers so far this year. And so I don't think this is a terrible matchup for Tet. But I will say I also love Rome Odunze this week. I think he is a locked-in top 15 wide receiver. I think we're seeing the second-year breakout for Rome Odunze right now. I don't think DJ Moore is even in the equation in terms of like overall pecking order. I think it's easily Rome Odunze. And I know it's a small sample size, but he's the wide receiver 4 in fantasy points per game, which obviously is a huge week last week. Obviously, helped that, but he's still dominating the targets with a 30% target share and a 36% first read target share, which are both elite. And so, I mean, he's just checking all the boxes. And this is a phenomenal matchup against the Cowboys. And we just saw the Cowboys get absolutely annihilated by the Giants and Russell Wilson. I mean, Wandale Robinson was out here running loose on them. Obviously, Malik Neighbors is always going to be able to do that, but so far they've allowed 453 receiving yards, which is by far the most in the league, and the third most touchdowns and the second most PPR points to wide receivers. And so Roma Dunze is locked for me. I do not want to sit him at all this week in this spot. And then I think the other one you kind of look at here was Jordan Mason. Obviously, we got some really good quotes today from KOC saying that he's going to be a workhorse. Like he's going to be an absolute locked in workhorse. Jordan Mason is. And then you get the Bengals matchup, which I talked about in the video, where they've allowed the third most PPR points to running back. So I think at this point, I think I go Dunze and I go Jordan Mason. It's really tough for me to sit Buka, though I will say that just because how good he's been through 2 weeks. But I think I would go Roma Dunze and Jordan Mason here in this spot. Um, I think that's the way that I would play it. So that's the way that I would go. And then, or I can pick up Juwan Jennings for the first question. Trying to think even if like, because I would want to pick up Juwan Jennings anyway, but I don't really know who I'd want to drop. I guess Jerry Judy, if I was going to drop somebody, is probably who I would drop. But it makes me nervous doing that because eventually Brandon Ayuk sounds like that he's getting closer. But it's more like I think he's still another 2 or 3 weeks away for sure. But yeah, if I was going to, I would drop him for Judy. Generation X, good afternoon. Hope you're feeling a lot better. I'm feeling a lot better now. Might roll out Dak over JD this week since the matchup for Dak and the fact JD's banged up. Henry and Mason locked up running backs. Yes, absolutely agree with the bottom two, those two running backs. And I would go with Dak. Right now, I don't know if Jaden Daniels plays. It sounds like some of the reporting today was they're going to be very cautious with him, which makes sense. I mean, obviously, without him, they're going to be ruined. And so I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play this week. I mean, we'll have to see. But right now, I have Dak as my QB3 this week. So I don't have Jaden Daniels in my top 24 just because I'm put them together as if he was not going to play. But right now, I have Dak Prescott as my number 3 overall quarterback. I mean, he's been really good. Even in the Philadelphia game, I know the numbers don't necessarily represent that, but the ball knowers out there that watched that game, he looks incredible. And really, a lot of that was some of the numbers didn't back it up was because of like 4 terrible drops by CD Lamb in that first game. But other than that, he's been really good. 20 plus fantasy points last. I think this team is going to throw the ball a lot. Great matchup against Chicago. So yes, I would go Dak this week and feel pretty confident about it. And I love your running backs there. It was absolutely wild last week seeing Derrick Henry. What did he score, like 4 fantasy points, or whatever, against the Browns? I think everybody thought he was locked in, but that Browns run defense is legit. So that certainly was surprising to me, even in that situation. So, and then need help more Keon or Judy for wide receiver 2. Ridley is also on the waivers. For flex, it's between Connor, Pollard, and above. DST is between Bucks, Vikings, Colts, and 49ers. So, excuse me. For me, so this DJ Moore, Keon Coleman. See, with Keon Coleman, like I think he's going to be good this year, but there's going to be weeks where he's going to be super frustrating because of the way that they tend to at times to spread the ball around, which makes it tough with him. Um, I can't believe somebody dropped Calvin Ridley. I would pick Calvin Ridley up. I know he hasn't been great for the first 2 weeks, but they've also had just a brutal run out of schedule. The Titans have. So I think this matchup is a little bit more fantasy friendly here against the Colts. I think Colts defense is better, is decent, but it's not on the same level, I think, as the Rams or the Broncos that they faced the first 2 weeks. So, and I actually probably would go. I think I would go Calvin Ridley actually in that spot. Um, let's see. Yeah. Yeah, because I have yeah, I don't know. It would be between DJ Moore and Calvin Ridley for me. I think it would be the 2, that would come down to between that group of wide receivers that you have, and it just I think Calvin Ridley's due for a little bit of a bounce back spot, and I think this matchup is decent. It's at home. I think I would go. I think I'd pick up Calvin Ridley, but then I guess the question becomes who you drop, and I think it's probably I don't know what the rest of your team looks like, but if you have to draft, like I guess it would depend on who you have to drop to be able to make that work because they're really close for me. I have them back to back in my rankings, so um, I think if you don't have anybody to drop, then I would just go with DJ Moore, and then running back. I I probably go. Let's. Excuse me. I probably go with. It was really close. I mean, I have James Conner at 20. I have Tony Pollard at 23. It's really close for me. It just worries me with Connor, the usage that now all of a sudden that he's losing. I mean, he's constantly losing more and more opportunity. Now that we've kind of seen Trey Benson take over as the lead or not the lead back, as the pass catching back here in this backfield. Connor's kind of been relegated to the early down banger. And so that just concerns me when you ever then when you have Tony Pollard, excuse me, I mean, he is the absolute workhorse in the backfield here. Now, the Colts have been decent against the run game so far this year, and so I kind of go back and forth on that. I think Connor's probably the safer play, but I do think that Pollard probably may have a little bit higher of a ceiling just because of the overall workload that he's going to get. And then let's see. Oh, sorry. I didn't answer your defense question. And it's between Bucks, Vikings, Colts, and 49ers here at defense. I think for me, with the I think I'm gonna go with the Bucks. I have the Bucks the top 5 defense this week. I know the Vikings are gonna get Jake Browning here, but Jake Browning's kind of proven to be like a competent quarterback. Like he's not great, he's not terrible at quarterback. Like he can sustain this offense, and I just really like the spot. And then you factor in that Justin Fields may not play, and we know how aggressive the Bucks defense is with their coaching staff, and they're going to bring the house. They have offensive line questions for the Jets. So I think I would just go with the Bucks here as a top 5 defense this week for me. Chris, hey guys, hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well as well. Need staying undefeated. Love to hear that. Full PPR. Would you start Tyreek or Pittman? Other starters are Jamar Chase, Buka. Waivers has Franklin, Diami Brown, Kayshawn Booty. Thank you. I would go with Tyreek. It was good to see at least with him last week that he finally got 100 yards. That I just can't. I think that we're not long. Tyreek Hill's not long for Miami. I think that we are cruising towards him being moved at some point. I know he was upset last week, which I can't blame him because Tua completely missed him on when he was wide open. It just seems like a lot going on there. But either way, this is going to be a spot they're going to have to throw the ball. At least they're playing in Buffalo when it's not cold out. Thursday night game, and so I would probably go Tyreek. I do like Pittman. I have Pittman as a top 30 wide receiver. I believe I have him at 30. Um, and so, but I do have Tyreek Hill, 31. So I have Pittman at 31, and I have Tyreek Hill at 25. So I would lean towards Tyreek here in that spot. And Chris, what does the rest of your team look like? I'll try to scroll down and make sure I don't miss it, just so I don't have to wait. But just because I would like to have probably, I would like to roster Franklin just to see if what we saw last week with that workload, that 80% opportunity or that 80% um, route share that he got last week is sustainable. Because that's the most frustrating thing with Sean Payton's offense is that we see this from time to time where all of a sudden a guy he goes out and runs 80% of the routes and then completely falls off. So I would like to see that. Tyler, appreciate the super chat. Started Stafford versus the Eagles or Browning. Also start two Jacobs, Kyron, or Mason with No Jones. I'm going to go with Josh Jacobs, and I'm going to go with Jordan Mason. And then at quarterback, I'm going to go with Stafford over Browning. I prefer Stafford here. I think Stafford actually looked pretty decent last week. Looked pretty solid. I think he's looked good actually the first 2 weeks of the season. I know the back injury stuff really worried us, but I would go with Stafford here, and then I would go with um, Jacobs and Mason here in this spot. With Kyron, I hate the matchup for him. Like the Eagles' run defense is easily the best in the league, and he is very game script dependent because he's not utilizing the passing game. So if they were to fall behind, and then you're not going to see a whole lot of Kyron the rest of the game. So I would go with Mason, and I would go with Jacobs. I appreciate the super chat, Tyler. All right, let's get through some of these. Aloha. Is Clement Fields worth burning my first waiver priority on? I have Daniel Jones, 14 team league. I mean, the thing is Daniel Jones legit? Like, is he? Like, is this real that we're seeing from him? That's the question. Like, excuse me. Like Shane Steichen, has proven to be really. I mean, he's done a really good job with a lot of quarterbacks. Obviously, he didn't really was able to do it with Anthony Richardson, but I don't know if anybody's been able to save Anthony Richardson. And like Daniel Jones has in the two games that he's played this year, and like last week, I mean, that's the one I was way more impressed with was against the Broncos because, I mean, when we're talking about a defense that I still think is the best, one of the best, if not the best defense in the league, then like seeing what he did last week was I mean over 300 yards passing. Like I did not see that coming at all. And while again it's only 2 weeks, I mean he can still fall back to earth. Like I don't know. Like and Daniel Jones does carry some upside as well. It makes it tough when it comes to Justin Fields because obviously we know how good he is for fantasy purposes. But I don't know if I would want to burn my number one waiver priority on a quarterback. I guess is what I'm getting at. I know it's a 14 team league. Is it a super flex or is it not? Because that's something that would play into my decision as well. Because if it's not a super flex, I don't think I don't think I would. I think I would save it, especially in a 14 team league. Like there's going to become somebody at some point this year that's going to be a massive waiver ad, and I wouldn't want to be the person that blew it and lost that. That's the only reason I don't like rolling waivers. By the way, I'm a much bigger fan of Fab. I think it's the best way to do it. Chris, this is yours. Here's my team: Josh Allen, Cabrera, Chuba, Chase, Tyreek, Buka, Warren, Cameron Dicker, Bills, and then Pittman and Golden are only notable bench players. I can pick up Franklin to hold on to. Well, I mean, if you could pick him up, I would because I think he's worth it. Because if we find out this is sustainable, and like I said, over the offseason, like we heard a lot of this, and obviously there's the narrative that they went to college together, so they already had that built-in rapport. But there was a lot of rumors, or not rumors, but a lot of talk from camp that how good Franklin looked, and I obviously nobody really took it seriously because he's 3% rostered, and nobody has him, and so even after last week when he saw 6 targets, still nobody really talked about him until he blew up like he did last week. But I definitely want to see if this is actually something we're going to see moving forward versus so if you can add him, like I would do it because I think he's at least worth a look, and he's not going to cost you anything to be able to do it if he's just sitting out there on waivers. And then Olave or Juckins PPO, I'm going to go Olave here on the spot against the Seahawks. And then would you sell Tootin for Rice? I'm on too. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, well, actually, well, I mean, I don't think Tootin at least right now is going to be some big, huge difference maker for you anyway. But so, like, yeah, I mean, if you could sell Bashaw Tootin for Rice, I probably would do it. Because I'm telling you right now, when he comes back, he's going to be a locked in top 15 wide receiver the rest of the season. So, um, yeah, I mean, if you can make it work, yeah, I would do it. Because I don't think like losing Tootin is going to kill you. Let's put it that way. Will, who should I start in my flex spot? AJ Brown, Cooper Cup, David Montgomery, Keon Coleman, or Nick Chubb? It's crazy that we're at this point where we have to ask this question whenever you have AJ Brown in the mix. But I get it because it's been frustrating. Now I will say, in terms of like his separation numbers and everything, because his separation and stuff was awful in week one, but in week two it was back to being elite. It's just he just didn't throw the ball last that much last week. Now they did like on one drive, like throw the ball to AJ Brown like four times in a row, but it was all like really short stuff. But I will say this: I think the Rams can push the Eagles, and I think they're going to push them to make them throw the ball. I don't think you're going to see. I don't think you're going to see Jalen Hurts dropping back like 22 times. I don't think that's going to happen. And so I'm going to go with AJ Brown here. I think he has a breakout spot here in this game against the Rams this week. So I would go AJ Brown over the options you have. And then who should I start? Juwan Johnson or Tyler Warren? I actually have both of them as top 10 tight ends this week, but I have Tyler Warren at tight end 5. So yeah, I would go Tyler Warren here. Tyler Warren's a dog. I'm worried about Hampton. I get it, right? But I just think like one context needed that the two teams they've played so far, and I know you say, well, they played the Raiders, like, and he didn't do anything, but the Raiders have been pretty good against the run. I mean, even in week one, they were solid against the run. Small sample size. But and in week one, when they played the Chargers played the Chiefs have been one of the best run defenses in the league. They were really good this week. Yes, Saquon found the end zone, but that's really about all he did. Like, it really wasn't a super explosive game for Saquon Barkley. He was able to find the end zone. But there's definitely stuff to be concerned about with Hampton, but I think he's going to be fine over the long haul. Like, really, and it's crazy because like none of the rookie running backs are doing anything. Like, yeah, we've seen like Dylan Sampson pop off here a little bit, but overall, like the running backs really aren't. I mean, Ashton Genty is struggling, Hampton struggling. Travion Henderson was like a fourth or fifth round pick, not even fighting the field. RJ Harvey's in the same boat. Like, there's a lot of like rookies that aren't really doing anything. It's like Buka, Tyler Warren, and Ted McMillan are like the three guys that are really doing a whole lot to start out their rookie season. So, but the running backs, which was everybody was touting, was this running back class was incredible, really has missed the mark so far. But it's also week two, so let's not be overly concerned. I mean, these guys are first round picks. Amari and Hampton was, and I think they figure this out sooner rather than later. I don't think he's no longer like a must start play anymore. I definitely think if there's other options, you could look to play them for the time being. I have him as like a borderline top 24 running back this week. I will say, surprisingly enough, where the Broncos have really struggled this year is against the run, especially interior. I think they've allowed, I think like 29th in the league in terms of allowing yards per carry on the interior of their offensive line. I think I saw that today. And so, excuse me, their defensive line. And so I think that spells really good news for Amari and Hampton. So I think this could be a matchup that maybe he gets going a little bit. So, but again, I also have him at RB23, so I'm not overly, excited about that thought. But I do think the opportunity's there. Trade Cup and DJ Moore for JSN. Absolutely. Yeah. Bronson. If you could do that, I'm doing it without even thinking about it. Cup, DJ Moore, and Daniel Jones for JSN. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I am doing that no matter what. Like, JSN's numbers are absolutely ridiculous. I know week one they were high, and I was like, oh, whatever. It's just week one. They'll leave out. But again, I mean, last week. So through 2 weeks now, he has a 44% target share, and he's averaging nearly 12 targets per game right now, and it's absolutely ridiculous. So second yard per team passive, 14 yards per out run. Like, JSN's been an absolute baller. Why is Stafford ahead of Browning? Because Stafford's a better play this week than Jake Browning is. Um, I mean, Stafford is obviously the better quarterback. Like, I don't think anybody's denying that he's the better quarterback here. They have equally as good of weapons between the two of them, right? With Devontae Adams and Puka, and then but the thing that worries me the most with Jake Browning is the Bengals offensive line is absolutely dreadful, right? And I think what you're going to see is just a bunch, which is what he did in 2023 when he started those 7 games. 72% of his throws were 9 yards or less. I think you're just going to see a bunch of quick hitting screens, slants, like getting the ball out of his hands as quickly as possible. I don't think you're going to see whole lot of downfield passing with Jake Browning. I think it's going to be a lot of short underneath stuff. That's why he also targeted running backs. Joe Mixon that year 40 times in 7 games that he played. Like I'm not. I know he was decent last week, but that was also against the Browns. The Vikings defense, I think, is going to have a field day with that offensive line. So it's pretty easy Stafford for me over Jake Brown. Michael, Troy Franklin, or Garrett Wilson this week. That's crazy. I will say this actually that I mean Tyrod Taylor at least is a competent backup quarterback. We know he can throw the ball. He can get and so I would go Garrett Wilson here. He's still going to see a lot of targets. And then trade ETN for Travis Hunter and Gino in a super flex when I lost Burrow. Other QB is Love. Man, what do your running backs look like? Like, because I'm assuming, I mean, most people drafted ETN like in the 11th round, so he's kind of a luxury at this point. I just don't really love getting Geno Smith, but I mean, there's definitely better days ahead than what we saw from him, on Monday night against the Chargers. Yeah, what's the rest of your team look like? T Mac and ETN for Genty and Sutton. Yeah, I would make that move. I mean, again, we were talking about with the rookies, but Genty's going to figure this out, and it's 2 weeks into the year, and so everybody thought the sky was falling last week with Kenneth Walker, and Kenneth Walker was trash, and Zach Charbonnet taking over the backfield, and then Kenneth Walker came out and dropped 100 yards and a touchdown, while Charbonnet came out with 15 carries and for 20 yards. Like these things tend to have a way to figure themselves out, and like we always say, don't overreact to a couple weeks. And so I would probably do that. I think over the long haul, I think there's a better opportunity for Bashaw Tootin actually for overtaking Travis Etienne at some point this year. Like they don't have anything tied to Travis Etienne. This isn't the coaching staff that drafted him. They drafted Bashaw Tootin for a reason. I think that's why they moved on from Tank Bigsby for a reason. I think they love and very much like we saw last year with Bucky Irving, right? It was kind of a slow burn through the first 4 weeks with Bucky, and then finally he started to really seeing a lot more opportunity, and until he just took the backfield over. I think that we could be on that trajectory with Bashaw Tootin, and so I'm okay with moving on from Travis Etienne. I actually think he's probably one of the best sell high players there is. What do we do about Godwin and Ayuk? Still hold or drop any for Franklin or Ao Maynard? I mean, I want to hold on. I don't want to have both of those guys. I wouldn't want to have both of them because it's tough. Because I think there's a much better shot that Brandon Ayuk comes back and looks decent than there is for Chris Godwin. I mean, it wasn't just the injury last year; it's also that he re-injured it over the offseason, which is why and he had to have another surgery and more issues happen there with that stuff that he had and the tightrope stuff that he had. We just see it. I mean, guys that come back once they come back from that injury, they're terrible. Like for the first year, they have no explosiveness. They can't move well. So if I had to drop, like if I was going to drop one of them, it would be probably Chris Godwin, because also I mean Emeka Egbuka has kind of entrenched himself. Like how many more targets are going to be go around for Chris Godwin? Like I don't see all of a sudden Chris Godwin coming back and Egbuka is taking a back seat to Chris Godwin. That's not happening. Like he's not that genie's not being put back in the bottle per se. And so if I had to drop one of them, it would be Godwin. But I would have to think maybe you have a better option to drop. And if I was going to add one of them, I really like Ao Maynard right now. I talked about him last week as somebody that I really wanted to target, somebody that I wanted to add. Um, and so I was, with what we saw, and like their schedule has been brutal to start the year. Like we've kind of said that with Cam Ward, but it's going to get better. And once it does, I think some of these dudes, like I think Ao Manor could be. I think he's the real deal. Like I think he's very good, and so I want to be early with Ao Manor. What do you think of this trade PPR 12-team redraft. Oh, okay. Sorry. We already got that. Stafford is only 10 times better. Is also yeah, easily, easily better. I also always say Matt Stafford never gets the respect that he deserves. Like he has been an incredible quarterback in his career, like incredible, and like never gets the respect that he deserves. Like he always just like I don't know. I don't feel like he's ever in the discussion to being like the top one of the top quarterbacks in the league. Like is he on the spectrum of like Josh Allen at this point of his career? No, but like he's still a top 12 quarterback. Like we're talking about like not fantasy quarterback, like just like quarterback. Like he is still, I think, a top 12, easily a top 12 quarterback, probably on the latter half of that spectrum, but he's still really good. His problem is he's old, he's older, and he's his body's starting to break down because early in his career, the dude was a madman out there running, like taking hits and staying in games and playing through stuff, and you're starting to see it catch up with him a little bit. But Matt Stafford's still incredible. That's we call him the wide receiver kingmaker for a reason. Uh, Canoa, what are we doing with Caleb Johnson? You could drop him. I mean, I'm not even just like I unless you're but I would still say like you want to drop him for something that's like impact. Like I don't want to just drop him. But if there's something out there like on in your league that you can get I would drop him. Like it it could change for sure. Like he has to surpass. It's crazy, but I mean, he has to surpass Kenneth Gainwell, right? I mean, but at the same time, you're dealing with Mike Tomlin. You're dealing with Arthur Smith. You're dealing with Aaron Rodgers, like some of the most stubborn players in the league, and so Caleb Johnson certainly didn't do himself any favors whatsoever with the fumble that he had last week, or not even the fumble, the missed, on the kickoff return where he missed it and didn't go covered up because he didn't know the rules. And then the Seahawks got a touchdown off that. So it's just been one thing after another with Caleb Johnson. But yes, if you need to drop somebody, Caleb Johnson can be dropped. Bitch one in PPR: Chase Brown, Genty, Mason, Kyron, Kamara. I would bench Kyron. Just the one that I hate the matchup I hate the most. Uh, I still think Chase Brown is going to see quite a bit of targets. I think with Genty, he is instead of being like a top 8 running back now, I think he's much more of like a back half RB1 or high end RB2 right now. I know last week he only played like 58% of the snaps. I don't think that's something that's sustainable. I think that'll bounce back. It's just it's a really gross game. I mean, Geno Smith was absolutely dreadful, horrific in that game. But and then Kamara, I actually really love this spot for a really great matchup against Seattle. That's the way that you can get that you can beat them is on the ground. So 808, need two. Debo, Dobbins, Ramondre, McConkey, Sutton. Thank you. Are you I already know. But I was gonna say, are you a Broncos fan with Dobbins and Sutton? Do you also have RJ Harvey on the bench too? Bo Nix on this team 808? But I would go with Debo. I think Debo is a top 20 wide receiver this week, and then I would go with McConkey. It is a little bit. I will say it's a little bit surprising with what's happened with the Chargers. Like I don't think anybody expects them to be as pass heavy as they have been. But at the same time, maybe we should have with the moves, some of the moves they've made, stuff like that. But I still think McConkey's going to be fine over the long haul. I know he hasn't been the one getting the touchdowns, but Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnson. But I would go with McConkey here. And I would go with Debo as the other wide receiver that I would go with here. Dang, skip me. I didn't. What did I skip something? I don't think I did. Did I? Oh, I think I got. I think I saw the Hampton one. Did I not get this? My fault. My fault. If I did, I got Sutton, JMO, Hampton, full PPR. Where are we going? So we got JMO against the Ravens, Cortland Sutton versus the Chargers, and Amari and Hampton versus the Broncos. Same. I think I would go with Jameson Williams here, and I'm gonna tell you why. That game is like that game right now has, and it's actually been bet up. A lot of times when lines come out, we end up seeing that line drop, and This game has been bet up almost 3.5 full points from this Lions Ravens game. Right now, it's up to almost 53 points. And so I think this game could go nuclear. And again, it is a very high scoring affair. Jameson Williams obviously is one of the most explosive running wide receivers in the league. And so I don't mind Sutton. I don't mind Hampton. We kind of talked about it, but I'm just going to lean into this game and I'm going to go with Jameson Williams. Unless that's not Jameson Williams, but I assume that's what that is. Joshua, trade. T Mac, ETN for Sutton. And oh, wait, did we already get that? Yeah, I already got that. Bucky Walker, Hunt, Pollard, and Braylon Allen are my running back. Someone dropped Harvey, so I'm definitely going to go for him. My wide receivers Nico, Jason, Ridley, Godwin, Downs. So trade ETN for Travis Hunter and Gino to Superflex. So your running backs are Bucky, Walker, Hunt, Pollard, Braylon Allen, and you get Travis Hunter out of it. I really want to ask, I was really hoping, and which is, I still think it's likely within the next probably month that I don't think I think what Russell Wilson did was a fluke because I actually think Jackson Dart is one of my favorite, but I assume in a super flex he's probably not available, and this might be. But I would also maybe try to like if you're gonna flip ETN, maybe you try to like shop him around and see what other options that you possibly could pull out. Because I don't love Geno Smith here. Like I think he's fine, but like I think you could get more for Travis Etienne, especially as well as he's played. I think I would rather do that, especially if someone dropped Harvey. Then yeah, I mean, but I would try to get something a little bit better if you could for Travis Etienne and see if there's a little bit higher of a range of quarterback. With Fields being out, who would you get on the waiver wire? Russell, Rogers, Love, or Darnold? Hmm. The only thing that worries me about Jordan Love is just because we've seen it. Like if they don't have to with their defense, they won't open up the offense. Now they didn't really need to last week, and they still threw the ball 31 times. I'm going to go with Jordan Love, and the reason I say that is because the Browns have been elite against stopping the run this year, and I think they're gonna if they're gonna score, I think they're gonna have to do it through the air. And so I'm gonna go with Jordan Love here over the other quarterbacks you have. I don't mind Sam Darnold. I think he's kind of interesting this week, but I would go with Jordan Love here in that game. Brandon, Kelsey or Juwan Johnson? Wild that that's where we're at, right? This would even be a conversation, a question, but it definitely is. Um, I actually think so. Here's how I see it. I think Juwan Johnson is the safer play. Just the the routes that he's running, the opportunity, the targets that he's seeing. I think he's definitely a much safer play than Travis Kelsey. I think Travis Kelsey has a little bit higher of a ceiling just because, his propensity to score touchdowns. I do think the Chiefs offense bounces back, and it does sound like Xavier Worthy is going to play this week. He was back practicing today, which is a really good sign from the beat reporters I saw saying that he had no limitations whatsoever with Xavier Worthy. So I think he's back. And it sounds like their fourth round pick that there was a lot of excitement about. Jalen Royals is also could be back this week, but which is going to help opening up this offense because clearly Hollywood Brown isn't that guy. But I would probably lean Travis Kelsey, but it's really close. It's so close, in fact, that I have Travis Kelsey at tight end 6, and I have Juwan Johnson at tight end 7. So if you have a lean one way or the other, your gut's telling you one way or the other, that's the way that I would go. I think it's super close, and I think an argument can be made for either one. He also said he would do Aaron Rodgers instead of Geno if I wanted to instead. I know it's a super flex. The quarterbacks are worth a lot more in a super flex league, but it just doesn't do a whole lot for me. It doesn't get me very excited about either one of them having as like your backup quarterback. Again, let me like I don't know. I know I said it, but I don't know if you. I know you haven't said anything about it. Is Jackson Dart available? Is he sitting out there in your league? Like that's what I would want to know. I know you need another option, but like it makes me feel a little bit better if you have another quarterback sitting there, like in the waiting, that you're not going to have to rely on Aaron Rodgers or Geno Smith all year as your QB2. Joshua, pick two running backs, two wide receivers, one flex. Josh Jacobs, James Conner, Ramondre, Tyreek Zay, Justin Jefferson, Debo. This is tough. Just with some of these picks that I like. So the running backs, you're going to go with Josh Jacobs, and we're still going to go with James Conner. And then at wide receiver, we're going to go with Justin Jefferson. We're going to go with Zay Flowers, and then we're going to go with Debo Samuel. I think that's the way I'm going to go. Well, actually, let me say that. Well, you can't. I was gonna say we should wait and see what happens with Jade Daniels. I would want to see what reports come out about Jade Daniels tomorrow before this game. If we don't hear anything one way or the other um about Jade Daniels' status for this weekend, then I probably would just roll with Tyreek over Debo, just because like I don't want to mess around with that. And then the backup quarterback with Debo, I think it changes a lot. And so I think I would just go with Zay Flowers, Justin Jefferson, and Tyreek Hill. And then your running backs, I would go with Jacobs and Conner. Pick one tight end, Kelsey or Ferguson. I still would go with. I would probably go with Kelsey, but you could easily talk me into Jake Ferguson because I like Jake Ferguson this week. Top 10 tight end. I am at 10. Um, yeah. The B831 chat. Would you trade Goddard for Corum? I have Kyron. I guess the question would be, what other quarterback or what other tight end do you have? Like, what tight end are you going to roll with? But doing that, but yeah, I don't mind doing that, and I think you can easily do it. I didn't do one for kickers. I don't think. No, I didn't. I am going to do that video though, but I do have my rankings. I think I just finished them. It should be done. Let's see if it'll load. There we go. Who do we got here? Spencer Schrader. The Schrader I have at kicker 8 this week against Tennessee, and then I have Joey Sly at kicker 15 in that same game. Sly's been really good, but so is Schrader as well. But I have Schrader at 8, just like the offense a little bit more. So I have Spencer Schrader at 8 this week. Someone dropped Pacheco too. Rather go after Pacheco or Harvey. I would still go after Harvey, and I like I really liked Pacheco earlier in the year, but Pacheco looks like he's gonna not be in the NFL after this year. Like, like if you watch enough Chiefs games, you'll just start to see this trend of like he is explosive, but like he has the worst vision you'll ever see. Like it is terrible. Like I've seen so many cut ups of all 22 tape of him just like there's a clear hole and he doesn't go after it. Like he doesn't follow it. Like there was one last week where Creed Humphrey was the lead block and he had this wide open hole, this running lane to go into that he would have had Creed Humphrey out in front of him. And do you think he went that way or do you think he went to the left where there was four other defenders out there and that's the one. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So he went with the four, and he immediately gets tackled, and it's like his vision is not good. And so, like, yes, their schedule has been awful. The Eagles and the Chargers are two of the top three run defenses in football. So, like, that has done him no favors. And but I think we're I think one of two things is going to happen. Either Kareem Hunt is just going to continue to be this dude that's going to see enough work where Isaiah Pacheco is going to be spotty, or the Chiefs trade for a running back at some point this year. Like one of those things, I think is going. So I would go with Harvey. Brian, Kayshawn Booty or DJ Moore? DJ Moore. Kanoa. Bills or Seahawks? D. This is going to be the Bills for me. I really like the Bills this week. I think the Bills are a very good option. I like Seattle too. Seattle's also a top 10 defense, but I would go with Bills here. Joe, I see you here, Joe. Do I give Hockstead another chance with Wentz this week, or start Jake Ferguson full PPR? I'm going Ferguson. And I don't even think twice about that. But we are in wild times right now when we have Carson Wentz starting this week and Jake Browning and Tyrod Taylor. It's like we went back to like 2017 or 2018 with some of these dudes that are starting this week, and it's wild. And I really want to see what happens if Carson Wentz comes out and just has a really big game against the Bengals, because we've seen a lot of the KOC quarterbacks perform in the past, and if we see that, it'll be really wild to see what they do with JJ McCarthy. If all of a sudden Carson Wentz looks like he's back in his prime or something like that again, I don't expect it to happen, but it'd be funny to see. But yes, I would go with Jake Ferguson. Let's see, Ramondre or Pacheco this week. I would go with Ramondre. I don't mind Pacheco. Let me say that. Like, it's not as bad of a matchup against the Giants, but I would still probably go Ramondre uh, here just to like the matchup a little bit more for him. Do you think Mixon is coming back this season? Third week, still not a seal. No, I think he's out for the year. And that's what I was saying all off season. Like the writing was on the wall, and like now they're talking about him in past tense about like when they talk about him. It's like when they have talked about him recently, it's been like past tense stuff. Like, oh, we appreciate the stuff he did last year, and stuff like that. Like, I don't think he's playing at all this year. I don't think you're going to see him. I think it's been weird. They haven't really put out much information on it, but he's also on the non-football in the NFI, and so I don't think he plays at all this year. I think he's done for this year. So there's been a lot of like rumors and speculation about stuff that maybe had happened over the offseason. And so now he went and got a unauthorized like surgery or something like that done. I can't remember exactly what it was. I don't want to speak out of pocket on that. But yeah, I do not think Joe Mixon plays this year. Trade Lad for BTJ. I'm fine with that. BTJ has been super, super frustrating this so far this year. Some of it sounds like maybe it's this hurt wrist thing that they've talked about this week, but like there's also times where he just like shied away from contact. So like maybe that's the case because we didn't see that from him last year. So, but I would be fine with making that trade. I think BTJ's going to bounce back. I think at the end of the day he's going to be fine. I need help bad deciding who to start. All right, two wide receivers at a flex. I have Ladd, Pickens, Terry, Gore, JCM, Tootin, Worthy, and Franklin. So wide receiver, we're going to go. Oh, this is pretty straightforward. I'm going to go with Ladd, Pickens, and then I'm going to go with Egbuka here. I would go with three wide receivers. Yeah, over JCM, Tootin, Worthy. But I will say, this is a very solid team with a lot of very good depth. Good for you, because that is some really good depth there with what you're deciding between. And I think you're going to be really happy as the season goes on with some of that. And I think you probably be able to flip some of those players to even add to this roster. Thoughts on Matthew Golden this week? I think he's super boomer bust. Jordan Love missed him on a couple plays last week. Like his separation has been incredible. Like I think he leads the league in separation through 2 weeks. Like, and it's been like not even close. Like he is his ability to separate has been awesome, but Jordan Love has just flat out missed him on some deep balls. And like he should have scored one, maybe two touchdowns last week against the Commanders. They just missed him on it. So I think better days are ahead. I think the Jaden Reed injury is going to help him, but this is still a team that if they can, they will just run the ball and not throw it and not open up the offense and just rely on their incredible defense that they have. So there's going to be frustrating weeks, and then they do spread the ball around. You still have, Tucker Kraft, who's a dog, and then, Romeo Dobbs and Dontavian Wicks are still going to be involved. And all of a sudden they bring in like Malik Heath, and but I do think better days are coming for Golden for Matthew Golden. I do think that Dart is available. I also picked up Wentz this week, but Tyrod Taylor is available too. I would 100% pick up Jackson Dart in a two quarterback super flex league. He should not be sitting out there in a league like that. There's no shot that I would have him sitting out there because I think he's going to be good once he gets the opportunity. He's going to get an opportunity this year, 100%. it sounded very likely that it was going to happen like after this week or within the next couple of weeks until Russ went out and threw 400 yards. But that is not. I think that was very much a one-off situation, and I think it's only a matter of time until they move on to Jackson Dart. So I would want him in a super flex or a two quarterback league. I would want Dart on my bench. And then maybe you just roll with Carson Wentz this week to see. I mean, we're not talking about some upper caliber quarterback with Geno Smith, right? And so, like, I think it could go a lot of different directions with Carson Wentz and just see how it works out here with Carson Wentz because it sounds like he's going to be the quarterback for a few weeks, and they still have the weapons. And then next week they're going to be getting back Jordan Addison too, and so like that's what you love so much about this offense. And that's why people like that's why a lot of times with these quarterbacks they've been able to come in and play so well because this team is loaded offensively. And so, like, I don't love Carson Wentz. Like, I do not. Like, but at the same time, I've seen Nick Mullins. I have seen Josh Dobbs literally come off the street, like literally sign that week, come in, start, and have big games for this offense. And uh, because you have Justin Jefferson, because you have TJ Hawkinson, because you have all these weapons there. And so, like, I don't mind starting Carson Wentz, picking him up if I had to, and just to see what happens here. Chances are it's not going to be good, but I think the opportunity to trade for someone like a Geno Smith is also easily going to be there every week. Two receivers and a flex spot, full PPR. Lad, Pickens, Terry, JCM. Did I already get this? Almost positive it's the same. Is this the same one? Yeah, except for this one doesn't have a book on it. Well, so it'd be Lad, Pickens, and pretty sure it's the same team. There, Charlie. If it is, and you forgot Igbuka, if Igbuka is not an option on this one, it'd be Lad Pickens, and in the flex, I would go with Terry McLaurin. No, I can't do it. I think I would go with. I would love to say Xavier Worley, but I want to see what he looks like coming out of this injury and how they're going to utilize him and what's going to things are going to look like. Um, and then I would go Lad Pickens. I think I would go with JCM here. I mean, we're talking about Marcus Mariota. I think is going to be the quarterback for the Commanders if Jane Daniels is out, and so I just, yeah, okay, yeah, it is against the Raiders. So I mean, Mariota's fine, but he's not someone that I trust to be able to support multiple wide receivers or anything like that. And so I think I would just go with someone like JCM. You know, start two: Tracy, Benson, Tootin, Renfro, PPR. Boy, I don't know. I guess Tracy, because I feel like he's still probably the third down back, and they're going to be playing from behind. PPR. Benson is also a decent option here, but there's a lot of like projection on a lot of this, and so I'd probably give Tracy another chance to see how much opportunity he gets. This is going to be more of a committee or what this is going to look like exactly because it kind of came out of nowhere. But I also like something that's flown under the radar a little bit. This Tyrone Tracy after week one kind of criticized the coaching staff and just criticized overall like how the goal line packages went in that week one. And I think that had something to do with the fact that yeah his usage dropped so significantly out of nowhere. I mean, just one game went from like he was 70% opportunity to drop down pretty significantly, but he's still clearly the pass catching back. They're playing the Chiefs. They're going to have to be aggressive. They're going to have to throw the ball. So I guess I give Tracy another shot here. And then it's just all, it's tough to trust. I mean, I like Tootin season long for sure, but I don't know how much work he's going to see on a week to week basis, at least for the next couple of weeks. So I guess I'd probably just go Renfro and hope that, you know, this target share continues that he saw last week. Rate teams for this week: Mahomes, Algier, Swift, Jettas, Almanah, McBride, Johnston, Odunze. I guess I would just ask why are we starting Tyler Algier, but because you need like a really good, you need a very good uh game script for Tyler Algier to be able to get there. But the rest of the team, really good. I don't even know how you got Justin Jefferson, Amon Ra, and McBride. Like that's very good. And then love the Odunze add into that too. 7 leaves design. Would you trade Jamar for Jason? Yes. Yeah. For Jason and Bucky Irving, yeah, I'm doing that. Like I said, like I think Jake Browning is a decent backup quarterback. He's a solid backup quarterback. We have a 7-game sample with them playing together. Jamar Chase had one like really good game, like blow up game in that. The other ones were not great. And so like I'm not saying that I think Jamar Chase is just gonna be like terrible the rest of the year or anything like that. I'm not saying that. But I love the spot JSN is. I love Bucky Irving the rest of the year. I think both of these dudes are top 7 to 8 at their positions, and you're getting 2 of those guys for 1. Like, I'm easily making Emilio, need a flex, Travion, Swift, Shaheed, Mooney, or Quentin Johnson in a standard league. So we're looking for touchdowns. That's going to matter way more. So Travion Henderson's off the list. Shaheed for me would be off the list. Swift, I think, is in a conversation because of how much usage he sees, and he's a running back. I tend to, in standard leagues, lean towards a running back because PPR doesn't really matter. And so, and really, the biggest part of it all is touchdowns. Quentin Johnson, though, has now scored a touchdown in back-to-back games. He is the guy they tend to look a lot for inside the red zone as well. And so I think he is between him and Swift. I always lean though towards a running back when it comes to standard leagues. I think they just have a much better opportunity. It is a better matchup against the Cowboys too. So I think I'm going to go with DeAndre Swift on that. Joe, assuming both are healthy, BTJ or Ekbuka, I'm going to go with BTJ. Do I start Ravens D or Eagles D? Shadow, is there anything else? I don't want to start either one of them if I don't have to, but if I had to choose, I probably would go with the Ravens because the Ravens are on the road and the Ravens and Jared Goff in his career on the road is not as good. He tends to struggle. We saw it kind of week 1 a little bit. And so I would probably take Monday Night Football Ravens defense against Jared Goff if I had to. But I would bet there's probably better defenses out there that you can stream. Also, speaking of replacing ETN, possibly someone offered me BTJ and Henderson for JSN and Pollard. So I'd have 2 Jags unless I traded ETN. Offered you BTJ and Henderson for JSN and Pollard. I don't think I would do that, which is crazy. And because I love Brian Thomas Jr., but I right now I would rather have JSN over Brian Thomas. Wild. But yeah, and when it comes to Henderson and Pollard, I mean Pollard's the absolute workhorse right now. I mean he's handling the majority of the backfield right now, and so I would probably just I think I would hold. Should I trade James Cook, Jameson Williams for Kamara, Golden, and Pittman PPR? No, we're not doing that. We don't want to do that at all. We're not. I mean, no. James Cook is like, I think he's actually the number 1 running back in fantasy football right now. I believe. I'd have to pull it up, but I'm like 98% positive. At least his fantasy points per game, he is. Yes, he is. He's currently the RB1 in fantasy points per game, RB2 in expected fantasy points per game. Yeah. No, we're not doing that. I wouldn't do that. Drop Braylon Allen for Dart, then I'd say, yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean, Braylon Allen's fine. Like he's, if something were to happen, but are we really excited about the Jets at all at this point with their offense? And now you have, their interior offensive line is banged up, and yeah, but I want Jackson Dart in a super flex league. Who should I start at running back? ETN, Kyron, or Mason? Would you flex any of the other two over Tyreek or Evans? So I'm assuming I can only pick one running back. So I would go with ETN. And then who would you start, or would you flex any of the other two over either Tyreek or Evans? I think if you did, and I think I would probably heavily consider starting Jordan Mason over Tyreek. It's a risk for sure because we know that Tyreek Hill is still capable of. Which it's been a long time since we've seen it. I think he did catch a 30-yard pass from Tua. I think it was they said it was like the first time since like week 1 or 2 of last year or something like that. For Tyreek Hill. So it's definitely a risk, but I would lean with that. I think I would go ETN and Mason just because I like those spots better. I'm 2-0 in an auction league. I traded for Amon. No, are we benching Harvey this week? Yes, we're benching Harvey this week. I don't want to play him until we absolutely have to. And I don't think right now is the time. I think there is a point this year where RJ Harvey 100% is the lead back in this backfield and it's going to take this over. But this is what we typically see. Um, it's a slow process for these guys where you have to earn the I don't want to say respect, but you have to earn your role on this offense. You have to show that you can pass protect and that you can do a lot of these different things. And most rookie running backs tend to not be able to do that. Even Travion Henderson was somebody in college who was thought of to be good at pass protection, has really struggled with it at the NFL level. We've seen Travion Henderson last game have 3 holding penalties in that game himself. One of them was on special teams, and so it's a tough path. But like, we're benching RJ Harvey this week, but I definitely think still for season long is fine. If Emilio, if Ekbuka isn't healthy on Sunday, do you start Shaquille or Mooney at wide receiver 3? You already got AJ Brown and Marvin Harrison Jr. at the other wide receiver spots. I would go with Darnell Mooney in this one. I mean, he should have had a touchdown last week. He missed them. But honestly, the Falcons didn't have to do anything against the Vikings. They were so bad. The Vikings were so bad. JJ McCarthy was so bad. JJ McCarthy was dreadful. I mean, so for now, and I don't think there's anything wrong with JJ McCarthy. We saw JJ McCarthy running around the last play or two of that game. Like, I showed nothing was wrong with. Now, could be adrenaline, could be something other stuff going on, and he hadn't showed it yet. But like, I don't. I think this feels more like a reset for him than anything, and they want to just give him some time. And so, but yeah, I would go with Moody. Michael, I got offered Kenneth Walker, Jacoby Myers for AJ Brown and Michael Pittman Jr. Do I do it? If you're getting to the Kenneth Walker, Jacoby Myers side, yes, I would do it. Assuming that you need running back help. So I guess let me know on that. Because if you have no reason to like, if you don't really need Kenneth Walker, then maybe I don't do it. I don't want to just take something away, but because I do think AJ Brown bounces back, and I think it actually happens this week. But who do you think wins the trade? Jamar Chase, Josh Jacobs, or Nico Collins and Gibbs? I mean, it's supposed to be 4. So would you trade Jamar Chase, Josh Jacobs for Nico Collins and Gibbs? It would be the Nico Collins and Gibbs side for me, pretty easily. Is that the side you got? If that's the side you got, good work. And then Kanoa, Renfro, Travion Henderson, or flex PPR. I'm gonna go with man. Is there anybody else, Kanoa? Do we have anybody else out there? Is Elakeo Manor sitting out there? Is Troy Franklin sitting out there? Like, we have to go with one of these two because like I don't love Travion Henderson right now. He would probably be the guy that I went with and hope that he got past the pass catching work and maybe he gets a little bit more gets back being involved. But it was really surprising that when we saw Ramondre get the targets that he got. We saw 5. He had 5 receptions. Also, that play, that deep throw that deep reception that he got, that was supposed to be a Travion Henderson play, and they gave it to Ramondre Stevenson. So that concerns me a little bit. But is there anybody else out there? Like I said, is Elakeo Manor sitting out there? I would much rather have Elakeo Manor over Renfro. So that would be something I would be curious about. So yeah, you did make that trade. Yeah, good for you. Like I love that. Very very good trade. So well, see if you have any other questions here. We caught up to the chat. But I will say, because one thing I really tried to look into this week was like some of the underlying situations where people drop Kareem Hunt for. Oh, absolutely, drop Kareem Hunt for RJ. We're doing that without even thinking twice about that one. Yeah, no problem doing that whatsoever. I don't think Kareem Hunt's ever gonna. You're never going to be like, man, I so regret dropping Kareem Hunt. Like, I don't see that happening. Even last year, having Kareem Hunt rostered him when he was signed, like he was fine. Like he wasn't certainly somebody that pushed your team over a top, or he wasn't a league winner last year. And so yeah, I would easily be out here trying to add. I would do that no easily. Thanks for the input. I'm siding on wide receiver as well. I'm torn between Flowers and Adams, but would you go Evans or Tyreek over either of them? It seems risky, doesn't it, to play Zay Flowers over Mike Evans and Tyreek Hill? But uh, pull this up really quick. I was like, I knew that he'd been involved, but like Zay Flowers has been out here just getting a ridiculous workload. Ridiculous. I mean, 42% target share. He's running 92% of the routes. He's seeing 50% of the air yards. He's sixth in deep targets, 46% first read target share, which basically means that that he is the first read on and that on all of these opportunities. And he's also first in yards after the catch. The Ravens have the highest implied team total, which I've already mentioned the 52.5 point total, which is easily the highest on this slate of games this weekend. And oh, yeah, Detroit has allowed the eighth most receiving yards, the third most receiving touchdowns, and the eighth most PPR points to wide receivers. So I can't sit Zay Flowers. Absolutely love Zay Flowers this week. So I get it. And I like Devontae Adams. We've already talked about that. So, but with Mike Evans, like, and I guess they're playing the Jets, right? But now without a back with the backup quarterback in, it just feels like a little bit more of a gross game, or maybe they don't really throw the ball as much. I do think better days are coming for Mike Evans, like the usage stuff. Like he was somebody that I was kind of curious about, like what's going on, why his numbers haven't been quite as good as we were expecting. He hasn't scored a touchdown yet. And we've seen a little bit of a shift to Emeka Egbuka being a little bit more of that guy. But the underlying numbers are all still there for Mike Evans. I mean, he's still seeing nearly a 30% target share. He's top 12 in targets right now. He's still top 10 in red zone targets. They just haven't been able to connect on a touchdown. Everything else is still there. He's fourth in unrealized air yards as well. So if you don't know what that means, basically it's just yards that where they didn't connect, and he has 173 of them. And while he has 10.4 fantasy points per game, everything else really aligns for him. Baker Mayfield is still looking for him. Is still looking for him with a 44% first read target share. That's top five. So Mike Evans is going to explode here soon. Is it in this game, in this matchup, where you're going to have, Sauce Gardner out there? I don't think so. And so it's why I'm just a little bit lower on Mike Evans this week. But I would still, those are the players I would go with them. But I think definitely better days are coming for Mike Evans. And we're getting into a territory with Mike Evans, where people might be like, oh, he's washed. Buka has taken the job. He's 32. I don't see anything here that says that that's what's happening. I just think that he just has a little bit of bad luck, but he's still being heavily utilized everywhere else. And so I would say that he's a pretty solid buy low right now for me. And those are some of the stuff I was trying to look at when it comes to like wide receivers, because I need to put out the wide receiver video for this week. And that was kind of the stuff that I wanted to look at with some of these guys and start looking for some avenues to improve our teams. And this is kind of the way you do it a little bit, is trying to find some of these guys that people are going to be lower on before they explode, and take that opportunity away from you being able to trade for them. So I think Mike Evans is definitely one of those dudes. I think trying to trade for someone like a Nico Collins or a Brian Thomas is also very viable strategy right now because of how they've started this season, and all of them I think are going to figure it out. Now, I mean, Nico Collins could have had a monster game last week on Monday Night Football. He missed them a couple times for touchdowns. He did score one touchdown. He also got tackled like right on the 1 yard line as well in that game. But I mean, good things are coming for Nico. But man, that offensive line is not very good for the Texans, so that's going to continue to be a problem. And it's also really the biggest problem with Ashton Jincy right now too, is how bad their offensive line. I think they have like a 25% stuff rate, I think is what I saw, which is the worst in the league. Their offensive line is just dreadful. I don't know how some of these teams have such bad offensive lines they do. It's kind of like the Bengals with Joe Burrow. Like Joe Burrow's offensive lines have always been absolutely dreadful. And I've never figured out why they have never tried to protect their franchise quarterback, and they never have. They've always had a really bad offensive line since Joe Burrow's been there. So pretty frustrating stuff. Well, if I don't have any other questions, 'cause I think that's I think I'm the last one, then we'll go ahead and we'll get out of here. But let someone pop in. I appreciate the support. I do have a question for people that are in here. I wanted to ask this question. It's probably not even that big of a deal, but it is something I was thinking about because since I'm just a one man show right now, in terms of like videos, dropping them, I wanted to, because I don't know how many people in here play in leagues with kickers, but I typically in years past would separate them. I would do like kickers in one video and then defenses in one video. But I thought about combining them because you're pretty much streaming them uh, regardless. So, you know, you just cover defense first and then jump over to kickers. Which way would be better? Would you rather have a defense video with just defenses and then have a video separated for kickers, or would you rather have both? What would you think would be better? Because I've been going back and forth. This is the life that that I live. That I think about what video how to do a video with kickers and defenses. I am curious about that. I don't know what you guys thought on that, but I don't know. It's something I was thinking about. Yeah, that would be fine combining them. Yeah, it's just kind of how I was thinking about it. Because it'd just be a lot easier just to do it all at once, and rather than trying to, because the toughest part is finding time to do all this and to find the time to create all the stuff that I want to create. So that's tough. Hey, bro, quick question. I got offered a trade. I give up DJ Moore and Pacheco. I get Sutton. Thoughts? It feels a little heavy just because you're giving up the two players. Like I would maybe, but I also don't hate it. I probably would think about doing it. I honestly think that like DJ Moore at some point is probably a candidate to be traded. And I think this Bears team is not going to get any better. I think they want to see which Ben Johnson talked about on Monday, I think it was in his press conference, that they want to get more packages and more playing time for Luther Burden, their second round pick. And so I just think at some point this year we see DJ Moore traded. So, um, but so I don't like hate it, but if I was going to do it, I probably would want to see another. I would try to get something else added, like a bench piece to get added to this trade if I really wanted to do it, because I think it feels like you're giving up a little bit more than you should. Mims the drop. Yeah, yeah, definitely. If you have to, for sure. He's certainly not someone you have to hold. Let me put it that way. Um, he's easily droppable. Anyway, if you can answer this, what happened to Cody? He's dead. No, that was wrong. I should have done that. No, he's so his son is getting older. I mean, he's like he went from like the 5 6 year old where it's a little bit easier. Now his son's starting to get into sports. Um, and so his son is they're doing baseball. He's playing multiple sports. I think he's playing football too. I think is what he was saying. And like it's just he's super busy. He's with his job and everything else. He was thinking about starting another job. And so like it just got to be up to a point where he didn't really have the time and he didn't want to, half-ass anything. And so that's the only reason why. And so, we talked about it, whatever. And I was like, yeah, man, you gotta do what you gotta do, bro. Like, you got a family, you got kids, and all that stuff. And I totally understand it. And so he's good. He still jumps in if you guys are in the Discord. he still jumps in there and stuff like that, from time to time. But he's just been a little bit busy this year, and so I decided to keep the battle going. So, but no, he's yeah. I should have made that joke that he's not dead. He's fine, but and we're good. And so like it's just one of those things that like life and family. Like I said, his son is playing a ton of baseball right now. I know that. Anyways, but yeah, like I said, if you guys haven't, which is a great time, I guess, for promote that. If you haven't, you can join our Discord. It's absolutely free. There's always something going on in the Discord. People asking questions, talking, and it's gotten to the point where it's not like too big, where your questions like going to get mixed or anything like that. But it's big enough to where there are people in there that if you have questions, that people are going to jump in and help and like give you some information and stuff like that. And so are we. I'm in there, obviously, whenever I get a chance to be able to say that. So, if you guys want to, there it is. Never, no limit, generate copy link. Copy. But if you guys want to, you can join the Discord. Sorry, it's absolutely free. I just dropped that into the chat. So if you guys want to join that, you guys can. Like I said, it's absolutely free, absolutely no strings attached. But and you can see Cody's beautiful face in there every once in a while, and especially if you tag him, he'll answer you. Anyways, so what's up? 49ers defense or Green Bay? Green Bay for me. Green Bay is my number one defense on the week. Absolutely love Green Bay. I think Green Bay is even more. They're not just a this week defense. Like they are a hold for me. Now it does suck that I think they have a week 5 um I believe they have a week 5 bye, so that kind of sucks. But because with that, but they get the Browns this week, Cowboys in Dallas the week after that, which their offensive line is starting to look. They lost their center now. Their offensive line starting to look banged up. Then you get the Bengals, which love that, and then the Cardinals, Steelers, great matchup again. Panthers, Eagles, not a great matchup there, but then you get the Giants. Like they have a ton of really good spots here for this Packers defense. And so, like, they are not just a like streaming defense; they are a hold for me. Rupp, how's it going? You think this is a good trade? I'm getting Ertz and Charbonnet for if you're getting Ertz, Charbonnet, you're giving up Ingram and J.K. Dobbins. No problem doing that whatsoever. And so, Ingram's droppable to me. I would drop Evan Ingram. I said it last week too, and I'll say it again. Evan Ingram's droppable. So the only reason Evan Ingram was good, before this, like especially in Jacksonville, was because he was just a volume monster. Like he was seeing tons of volume, and he was like the safety blanket for this. Like he's never going to get this role in Denver. Like he's not. And so like he's easily droppable. He's not good at yards after the catch. He's not explosive. Like none of those things are him. Like he was just all about volume. And so once he signed with Denver, I was out on him. And so like I've had Evan Ingram like as a 16, 17, 18 top 8, tight end this whole time. I didn't even have him, in my pre-draft rankings. I had him at like 15. I have no interest in Evan Ingram. Like he's easily just drop him. So yeah, if you can make that trade and get rid of him, I'm cool. Okay. It's like we didn't like Cody anyways. Hope you find a partner. Yeah, it is a little bit different doing this by yourself, but I've kind of gotten used to it over the years. But if you want, on Thursday nights, we do go live with the boys for the DFS show. And I've always said if you play redraft, like DFS is, I know if you don't play daily fantasy, it's fine. But you can get a lot of insight in terms of just like game matchups and stuff like that. It makes it a little bit easier to first start this stuff because DFS people go way deeper on a lot of this stuff than your typical redraft, because most redraft people are just like they're really focused on like their players, right? Where in DFS you have to like be really locked into the entire slate of games. So and a 16 team league, yeah. So yeah, you wouldn't want to drop probably having him in a 16 team league, so I get that, but yeah, still I would make that trade for sure. How do we navigate on trading away Daniel Jones, yeah, equal. Probably not right now. You're going to need more production from this from him because people just aren't going to buy into it. Most people have this preconceived notion that Daniel Jones is absolute cheeks, and so like I don't think you'd be able to get a wide receiver 2 unless people are just, like, super desperate. The best place to start, though, is, like, your Joe Burrow, people and see what they have and, like, who was available on waivers and stuff like that. But at the very least, you probably just let it play out a little bit. And if he continues to play as well as he is, his value is going to continue to rise. But you probably could easily trade him away. But I don't know if you're going to get a wide receiver 2 out of him. You're probably looking at like, especially in like a single quarterback league, you're probably looking at like a wide receiver 4 at this point, honestly, for Daniel Jones, because I just don't think as many people have that belief in him quite yet. Have a great night. Thanks for help as always. Have a great night to you, generations. Wife wants to know Shaheed or Pickens is easily George Pickens for me. I love George Pickens. Oh, did I miss something? I think I might have missed. My bad. But it's easily George Pickens for me. Anyway, it's not even close. George Pickens is a top 20 wide receiver. Zach, I apologize for missing. I didn't see that. Scottaboo and Juckins both on waiver. Which one do I pick up? Honestly, I probably go. I probably go Scottaboo, and here's why. Obviously, it seems like he's taken over the early down work. He is a very good pass catcher, and that's the with limit of Quinshon Judkins is he is not ever really been utilized as a pass catcher ever. You also have Cleveland, and I know saying that like the Giants' offense is great, it's not, but like I still think it's a better offense than the Cleveland Browns because I also think that Joe Flacco is very limited and his how much he's going to play this year, and I mean like I don't think he's long to stay with this job. There's already questions of like of them switching quarterbacks and going to somebody else. I think it's only a matter of time before we see Dylan Gabriel, at quarterback here. And so I would probably prioritize Scottaboo, honestly. Um, but let me ask, can you pick up both? I guess is a good question too. Odunze start instead of BTJ, Terry, or DK. Also have Jawan and Quentin Johnson. Yeah. So you probably weren't here whenever I first said it. But I have Rome Odunze as a top 15 wide receiver, I believe. Let me pull this up. Yeah, so I'm at 15. That's what I thought. So I have him at 15. So I would easily play him over um over Terry or DK Metcalf for sure. I'm still gonna play Brian Thomas, but I would play Roma Dunze over those other two pretty easily. So let me see whenever it's seven makes me lose my spot. Okay, there we are. Oh, we already got that. Kobe got offered Hampton and for got offered Hampton for Javante. Got Brown and Gibbs at running back too. What are we thinking? I don't mind that. Like, I don't mind buying. Like, I love like, and I am the people have been around here long enough know that like I am the Javante Williams stan. I have been since he came out of college at North Carolina. I absolutely loved him there, but you have to wonder like how sustainable this really is. Like, is this for real? Like, it could be for sure, but like, is also like he's been running really hot on touchdown usage. Now, the positive for him would be that how much he's being utilized in the passing game. We know he's good at that. He's been doing that the last couple of years, but that's really the only question mark you have. And at some point, do they try to mix in Jane Blue? But I also think that's probably more of an issue for Miles Sanders, I would think. And so like, I don't hate it. Like, you're buying low on Hampton, but it's certainly a risk because what if Hampton isn't just it just isn't good, right? And this doesn't change, and they continue to throw the ball at a really high rate, and it takes away opportunity from them. So I could go back and forth on it on this one when it comes to Javante. Um, I don't know. Maybe you hold. I It's wild, right? But Javante was one of my somebody I had as a sleeper. Like I felt like he was going to like 10th, 11th round, which is absolutely wild for a starting running back to be going that late. Like nobody wanted any part of him, and I think a lot of people just had this conception of or conception this idea of him that he was just dead and like he's not good anymore. Even though that we ignored it. This goes to show you that when it comes to a lot of fantasy content, I will say this that the biases that come from fantasy football content that people consume is like everybody picks and choose which narrative that they want to run with if it confirms their priors on something or if it doesn't. Because like we kept hearing a steady drumbeat about Javante Williams and how good he looked. And he looked like he was back. He looks like the old guy. And like he's that dude again. And like nobody cared. And like you didn't see people talk about him. Everybody was like, "Oh, it's Jaden Blue. Jaden Blue is going to take this job. Jaden Blue is the starting running back here." And Jaden Blue's been a healthy scratch for the first 2 weeks of the season. And I had Javante Williams as a sleeper running back this year because he was just going incredibly too late. And we tend to overvalue rookies a lot. And this was just an incredible spot for Javante Williams. And once you heard more and more, um, it kind of it kind of got things out of control, and he became such an easy player to draft because he was almost free. And so, but it's just crazy because it happens every year that people want to confirm their priors when it comes to a lot of this stuff, and it gets people into trouble. And we just like completely miss on players that you shouldn't have. And so, anyways, I'll get off my soapbox. So I will tell you this: me personally, I would probably take the move, and I will say because I am much more of a like ceiling upside type guy, and that's the way that I think versus not. I will say this: Javante Williams has a much better floor and could easily have a better ceiling. That's in the range of outcomes. It's not a non-zero. Do I think he's going to average 20 fantasy points per game the rest of the year? No, I do not. Um, but at the same time, I think the ceiling is still higher on Amari and Hampton than he figures this out. I think he is who we thought he was. But I just think that it's been a brutal run out of matchups for him and trying to figure things out. I think he does, and I think that he's still a solid option. So if that helps, I think that if you're looking to just take a home run swing, you go with Hampton. If you don't, stick with Javante Williams. Where are we at? I think we were here. Yeah. Xavier, Shakir or Pearsall, full PPR. I feel like Shakir has a better matchup overall. He does have a better matchup, but they spread the ball around so much in Buffalo. It makes him harder to trust. Like the floor is much lower for Shakir. I mean, they added Josh Palmer this offseason, Keon Coleman. I mean, Dalton Kincaid. They have two, obviously, and then you have Dawson Knox, who also gets touches. Like, there's just so many different things that happen here that he's always going to have a lower ceiling. I would go with Ricky Pearsall. Cam Ward, Wentz, Rattler, or Taylor. Gross. But if I had to choose one, it'd be probably Wentz. And I hate myself a little bit. Is Chase and Brees Hall going to see more ball without QB1? Should I be worried? I think Jamar Chase is still in a decent spot. Jake Browning is like a decent backup quarterback. He's not the best of all the backup quarterbacks. I think right now it might be Mac Jones. I mean, Mac Jones has looked really good in 2 years straight that he's given opportunity to be a backup quarterback and has proven himself. But Jake Browning is not a terrible backup quarterback. And I think Jamar Chase will end up being fine. Does it lower his ceiling? Sure. Yeah. Like you're not he's not winning the triple crown this year. He's probably not no longer in the running as the number one wide receiver, I would think. Is he still a top 5 wide receiver? Yeah, for sure. But I don't think that he has quite the ceiling as he did before because of that injury. Now, Brees Hall, I mean, you could argue that maybe he sees more opportunities through the air now with somebody like Tyrod Taylor, who Tyrod Taylor is athletic, or he used to be in his time. I mean, people remember The ball knowers know that his originally was Ty God Taylor, whatever he years ago, and I think that was back when he was with Buffalo. So I think he'll be okay, but I mean Justin Fields is more of a I think a 1 week thing anyway, so not really a long term issue. Appreciate it. Saw it. Terry and DK's matchups. Also probably overthinking. Yeah, I mean more so with Terry, it's more of the quarterback situation there than anything. If Jaden Daniels doesn't play, do I start Jalen Waddle or Pacheco? This is going to be Jalen Waddle for me. Or yeah, I would go Jalen Waddle here, assuming he's good to go, which I believe he should be good to go to play. I just can't trust Isaiah Pacheco right now. Sad because I thought he was going to be better than this, but it doesn't look like he's going to be at this point. And so I would go with Jalen Waddle over Pacheco here. Is Cooper Cup a go for my wide receiver three? Yeah, I think he's fine. I mean, he had a really solid game last week. I think he had over 100 yards, I believe. Just to verify, I just want to check. I think he did. Yeah, 7 catches. Oh, not 100 yards. Not 7 catches, 90 yards last week. 16 PPR points, which is a far cry, much better game than he had week one. So, but yeah, I think he's a fine wide receiver three this week. Brendan, should I trade Chuba, Bucky, and Nico for Bijan and AJ Brown? What would be the rest of your team? What does the rest of your team look like, Brendan? Is what I would want to know. Pacheco or Diggs in the flex? Now we're getting to the nitty gritty here. Um, at this point, I think I would go with Pacheco on this one. Like, I don't mind Diggs, but he's still playing kind of like a part-time ish role. He's only seeing a 17% target share, only running 64% of the routes right now. Does it get better as the season goes by? Probably as he gets further away from the injury that he suffered last year. But he's only averaging 9.5 fantasy points per game, which don't get me wrong, Pacheco is not doing great in his own right. But I think there's a better chance that he scores a touchdown. Let me put it that way, than Stephon Diggs, and then he gets an opportunity to punch one in against the Giants, which is probably one of their first like good matchups that they've had this year because it's been pretty tough. James Cook, Neighbors, Myers, Sutton. This is a really good team, by the way. Uh, so I'm assuming right now you have Chuba and Bucky and James Cook and Neighbors and Nico, Myers, Sutton. And then you would get rid of all those and get Bijan, but you'd still have so it'd be Bijan and James Cook. Um, man, that's tough. Because Bijan's incredible, right? And AJ Brown though is the problem. Like this team is so good, and so there is the downfall. You're gonna have these weeks that where like we've seen and where they're just not going to throw the ball very much, and they're gonna throw the ball 22 times or whatever it is, and it's gonna be frustrating. And so like there's a much bigger swing with AJ Brown, but there's going to be games this year where he has 6 for 150 and two, like where he absolutely crushes. And so like I think there's more risk involved there, but also like so does Nico Collins. I think if you're just looking at it like this, like is Chuba and Bucky, enough for Bijan Robinson? I mean, yes, I would say, but I feel like Nico Collins is going to be because like the Texans are going to have to throw the ball a lot this year. Like they're not going to be able to rely on their running game. I mean, it's Nick Chubb and Woody Marks and Damian Pierce and Dara Gumbawale, and so this is a team that's going to have to continue to throw the ball at a really high rate uh, through most of this year, and depending on their matchups. Now they do still have a really good defense they can trust, but they're not going to be able to they're not going to be able to run the ball as much. And so like I would if someone were to offer if I had AJ Brown and someone would trade me Nico Collins, I would do it all day. I would rather have Nico than AJ Brown. And so I I know I'm like capitulating here and going back and forth. Um, I think I hold, as crazy as that sounds. I think your team is still really solid, and like if you want to do it, fine. Just understand the downside that you're getting into, but it could also be a home run because you could easily have two top five running backs. But I also think that's where Bucky Irving is heading. I think Bucky Irving is going to end up being like a borderline top five running back this year. John, trade Nico and Kamara for CMC and Debo. Yes. If I can trade for Christian McCaffrey, I'm doing it. He's been incredible. Just pray to the good Lord above that that he stays healthy. And then his final question is Diggs or Booty. I feel like you're just testing me to see how far I'll go to get to Stephon Diggs. This one I would go with Stephon Diggs. I still like Kayshawn Booty, but a little bit more of a reduced role last week. Still, but he did score a touchdown. That was a little bit of a positive. At least it wasn't a terrible day. But I would probably go with Diggs here on that one. Magic Mike, full PPR, been offered BTJ and Rashad White for Brees Hall and Tootin. Monty would become my RB2 if I took this trade. I could pivot and trade Monty for Keenan Allen. Thoughts? Man, it's crazy that the part of me that like worries me is actually trading Bashal Tootin, just because I really think there's a world where he becomes this year's Bucky Irving. Um, I think he looks really incredible. I think he looks really good, and Travis Etienne is going to have to continue to play at a really high level, I think, to hold him off. And we've seen, last year Travis Etienne not look very good, and so like I think there's a point this year where he definitely probably overtakes this backfield, and so that's where like the concern for me getting rid of him. I don't think you need Rashad White. Like I know he looked good, and he will have standalone value for sure, but I think when it comes down to it, though, like I would rather have BTJ than Brees Hall. And I know you said that David Montgomery is your RB2, which is fine. I mean, David Montgomery is always overvalued or undervalued every year. Like we always do it. Everybody's like, "Oh, it's Jameer Gibbs. He's going to get all the work. David Montgomery's not going to get any," and then that's never the case. So you just have to hope he stays healthy. But is there any way that you can take Bashal Tootin out and put somebody else in? Because I don't want to trade Bashal Tootin. Canola, start three. Tracy, Juckins, Charbonnet, Hampton, half point PPR. Half point PPR, I'm going to go Amari and Hampton, Juckins. And I probably go Tracy, or not Tracy. I probably go Charbonnet, because I do think that he is, he's still seeing the usage, right? Like, I know last week was terrible for him, only 20 yards. But I think it's going to be a little bit longer before Kenneth Walker kind of really is on the positive side of 50+% of the opportunities from this backfield. I mean, last week it was still only 40%. Charbonnet wasn't as good, but now we get the Saints coming up here. So I think I would still be okay with playing Zach Charbonnet, and I would go Hampton and Juckins. Foo, start Drake May or Caleb Williams. It's crazy. I actually have both of them as top 10 quarterbacks this week. Caleb Williams scares the Jesus out of me. to play him and have. All right, excuse me. I have Caleb Williams at 11, so I guess I don't have a top 12. I'd say I'm a top 12 quarterback, but I would go Drake May here. I have Drake May at 6, so I would go Drake May there, Fu, over Caleb Williams. But it is a really good matchup though against the Cowboys. The Cowboys defense, my goodness, just got absolutely embarrassed. In that game, their defense did against the Giants. Like that was incredible to watch. So, but I would go Drake May here. So, anyways, that being said, I think that was the last question we got here. I think, oh, see, you got another one. Jelly of the month. Trade Charbonnet to Walker owner for Tootin. I'm 2-0. Yeah, I think I would. Yeah, I think I'm doing that. Yeah, I think I would do that, Jelly of the month. I just love the ceiling for Tootin. Now, don't get me wrong. If something happens to Kenneth Walker again, we know what Tootin can look like. But I would I think I would do it. I think I would take the gamble. So, as a matter of fact, I traded for Bajal Tootin in my home league today for Dylan Sampson. Felt pretty good about it. Johnson and Keenan over Ladd. You mean like in the rankings that I have here that I should have Johnson and Keenan Allen over Ladd McConkey? I mean, they've been the ones scoring the touchdowns for sure. But I also don't think that that's like sticky in any way. And that's just how it's going to be all year. I still think Ladd McConkey is still. I still think he's the number one wide receiver within this offense. I think that the way this team is throwing the ball right now, at a higher rate than I think any of us expected. I think that, but I think Ladd McConkey is going to be fine for the most part this year. I don't think now he has, and which is what we pretty much knew when they signed Keenan Allen the way they did. It was crazy because they actually were going to go. If Mike Williams never would have retired, they would have had Mike Williams. Like how different this would have looked in that situation. I don't know if they would have signed Keenan Allen if that didn't happen, but I still think McConkey's fine. He's still running 100% of the routes, which is not something Keenan Allen is doing. Just all his stuff has been very short and intermediate versus, but he hasn't scored a touchdown yet. But he's still averaging almost 12 fantasy points per game without scoring a touchdown yet. I'm I still would have McConkey over both of them, but I think really real discussion becomes is like as the season goes on, can they support all these wide receivers every single week? And that's going to be the real question mark. So that being said, thanks for all the info. Yeah. And if you haven't already, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. It helps us out, helps us grow. I never say that, but I always forget. But and we'll be here every single week, every Wednesday. I'm gonna try it this week on Sunday morning to go live for the first one this year. Don't have baseball this weekend, so I don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to try, as long as nothing comes up, to do it on Sunday morning. We go live. Usually it's like 10:30 in the morning or 10 a.m. to 11:30 Central Time. We'll go live. We'll also go live tomorrow night if you're in a DFS. The DFS shows tomorrow night with me and Ryan, possibly Maddie, and then so we'll go from there. And then I got some more videos to put out. But with that being said, we're back again next Wednesday as we do every Wednesday night to answer all of your start sit questions, trade questions, anything you have. Try to give you as much of an in-depth answer, and we answer every single question before we get out of here. So appreciate it. Again, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Have a good luck this week. Let's get some more W's. We're almost a quarter way through the season. Like this is how fast this goes. Crazy. So, anyways, we'll be back again here tomorrow night if you're in a DFS. If not, we'll be back on Sunday.